My name is Steven, and if you're hearing me first, that means that it's SGS week, and that means I am joined by a OnePiece.com columnist, all-around handyman with all things regarding One Piece. That would be Greg Werner.
Hey, also I think there's you got a Simba there with you too? Do you?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I think there's three of us on this episode, so yeah.
Yeah, he's here in spirit.
He's doing the heavy lifting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, hopefully everybody everybody in the States enjoyed their 4th of July weekend, avoiding the heat. It's been pretty crazy weather-wise.
Over there too?
Yeah. Well, okay. So where I live, it has been very strange this year. We've had like a almost historically gloomy and overcast June. Like it really didn't get hot until this weekend for pretty much the entire year. So we're just getting it now, which is usually not the case. But
see, that's interesting because we have a similar thing going on over here. Like we had a nice winter, a livable winter.
Mm-hmm.
But just in this past week, things have really gotten nuts. In terms of humidity, it won't let up. It's like your humidity is ocean.
Yeah. Yeah, not a fan.
Two old guys talking about the weather.
Yep.
That's what you tuned in for, right?
Yep, that's what we got for you. Yeah, so obviously we are still smack in the middle of this One Piece summer vacation. How's your summer vacation been so far, Greg?
Odachi na me?
Yeah.
My summer vacation non-existent because my summer vacation of One Piece is also busy. But yeah, we over here, and this is, I know Stephen was making a joke, but we're still in school in Japan.
Yes,
Japan still goes to school to like late July. So I get to suffer in classrooms in a country that does not like to use air conditioning because it costs too much money.
Yeah.
But the One Piece vacation is there is no One Piece vacation. I'm working on several projects right now for One Piece, and it's always chugging along.
Mm-hmm.
How about yourself?
I actually do have a bit of a One Piece vacation, although it'll end soon for something I'll talk about in a minute. But for the past couple of weeks, it's just been all the other stuff, everything else that it's like the adult summer vacation. You still have a million things to do and chores and errands to take care of. So yeah, that stuff. The grind never ends. It just hasn't been any One Piece the last few weeks, which is every now and then it's nice to take a break and not think about it for a while. But we do have it is not a completely One Piece less month because coming out this week, just in a day or two, I believe at the time that we're dropping this, will be volume 106. Of One Piece. I gotta check. What is the title here? A Genius's Dream. Okay.
Have you seen the cover for this thing?
Yeah. What did you think?
Unbelievable.
I love
it. It looks like he drew a Tezuka poster. Like,
yeah.
It's just I don't know how the layout's going to work with the text and everything. On top of it, I'm sure that'll bring it down a notch, maybe. But I mean, the what they uploaded, for the artwork. Oh my goodness. I've never seen a cover pop like that before.
Yeah, that's great. I don't know if I was going to say Wano had some very colorful covers too, but this one it reminds me of the one, 63 maybe, for Fishman Island, where it was just like rainbow, like pastel, like just really bright colors, just really hitting you in the face. And this one definitely has that going on for it. It just really jumps out at you.
Would you believe that that's one of my least favorite covers?
Really? and this one reminds me of it.
Yes. You know what's crazy? No, you have no idea how the reason I don't like it is because the blacks are so heavy on it. There's the color that pops, but there's this shading that he does on Luffy and I think Sanji as well. And it sticks out so much that it actually ruins all. Where is it? I don't know. Yeah, it ruins the effect of all the color popping, and that one just like I want to like it, but the shading on it is so heavy that every time I look at it, my eyes go immediately to the darker spots and just avoid the, I don't know, just a photography thing maybe, but like this one, he just there's just color everywhere. I don't think he went for any shading, and Luffy being so prominently featured in it, it just, oh my god, it feels like the now I wasn't here for the original obviously, but there was a revival for Astro Boy, right? Yeah, there's a revival for Astro Boy a few years ago. It had, well, probably more than that now, probably like a decade or more ago, but and it had all these posters that were out at the time, and this just, it not carbon copy, but it's the same vibe.
Yeah,
and it looks so cool.
Yeah, I think we definitely picked up on a lot of that sort of classic, the Tetsuwan Atomu and the Metropolis, that sort of Tezuka, retro futuristic design that he has, and it's really nice to see it kind of up front on this cover.
Yeah.
It is funny.
The SBS. Go ahead.
I was looking up the cover because the title, I should say, because I thought it was going to be, in the back of my head, I was like, oh, it's probably titled, what like Adventure in the Land of Science, right? Like that's how he always does with these sort of covers. And then I looked at it and it's a genius's dream, which was referring to Vegapunk, of course. Yeah. And volume 105 was Luffy's dream. So, categorically defining them as two separate things. Luffy and Genius, not the same. I love it.
Oh, perfect.
But we should be getting a bunch of new SBS information from that. But at the time that we're recording, we have no idea what is going to be in this. What new information will be in this volume?
Isn't that how many volumes is that now with Dream in the title?
Ooh, yeah, that's a.
Oh well, no, you know what? I thought that incorrectly that 25 was still no you. Is it 24? There we go, 24. Still no Yume.
That's okay.
Okay.
That's a good trivia question of how many. Yeah. How many volume titles have?
I guess it means Luffy's not human.
Yeah. All right. So that's coming out soon. What other new stuff? I mean, we're still kind of in the simmering down phase after all of the excitement with Tudum and the trailer dropping and everything. I think you were saying before we started that they're just kind of doing some ramping up some of the press interviews and stuff on the show.
Starting to see more of those pop up. I retweeted a number of articles that have come up, and of course you had Emily Rudd, mentioning the Oda said the basically seminal Nami scene is perfect. So
nice. That's good. That's what you want. Yep. That's what you want to hear.
Yes.
Yeah. So
that's actually 2 months from the day we're recording this. I mean, technically, how many days are in the month?
Oh, but, yeah.
But yeah,
end of August. Yeah.
Yeah, end of August.
It'll be here before we know it.
Doki doki.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we got some podcast news as well. This we were originally expecting to do this SGS next week. We had a little rescheduling involved because they are trying to get the English, the dub voice actors for the three calamities together, which should be a lot of fun. I know that I think one of them is a good friend of Steve's, so I'm sure that's going to be a great interview with the three of those guys. I'm looking forward to that, which hopefully we will have next week, I believe.
I think one of them voices who is it, Inarius or something, an angel in Diablo 4.
Really?
Yes.
That was not what I expected you to say, but that's awesome. Wow.
Yeah. It's just on the brain because moments before I turned on the mic here to join you, I was defeating the forces of hell. Wow. with my rogue. So
nice.
Yeah.
I'm playing a necromancer.
I heard that's fun.
Yeah. I just like having a bunch of guys running around with you. That's the whole draw of
the entourage.
Yeah, that's fun. I think that pretty much covers us as far as the news, the latest stuff that's going on.
There's some One Piece episode 1000 stuff coming up, I think.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, they're doing. That's for the English dub, right? They are
Correct.
airing it in a theater somewhere. I don't recall the details. There's that, and then they're also doing a orchestral.
Symphony?
Yeah. I remember. I think one of them is in L.A. and another one is in Dallas, which I believe our friend in Discord moderator Joe is in Dallas. So I hope she's got plans to go see that. I'm sure she's excited for that.
We need to see that. I think they usually rolled Tanaka Kohei out for some of those things. I don't know if
I know
he's able to reach this one, but
he's done some convention stuff before, or maybe I'm thinking of Kitadani because he's always out on the circuit.
There's always Kitadani.
Yeah.
And lately, Otsuki Maki, who if you're not familiar, she I think she's doing something on One Piece Day.
Oh, that's awesome. So, the first ending singer.
Yes, first ending singer, and maybe the third or something. She run as well.
Okay.
I don't know if that's third or second or what, but yeah.
Yeah, that's my favorite. That's my One Piece song is
Memories.
Memories, yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Love it. Okay, well, we did if you folks recall, we were on the little live stream. We did a kind of mini SGS there on the same day that the live action trailer dropped. So I think we've pretty much covered just our general thoughts on the last chapters remaining, the last remaining chapters of One Piece that we hadn't covered before. So I think we're just going to be doing all questions today.
That's I guess
true
par for course for SGS.
True SGS, right. Yeah. So why don't we'll just take a quick break here for some messages, and we'll be right back and get into some questions
after these messages.
Okay, it is SGS time. Stephen and Greg show. Let's get to some questions here. I think I remember where we left off. So we're gonna start with our Discord Patreons who have their own special SGS channel. If you are a subscriber on the Patreon and you are either on Discord but haven't gotten here yet, or you're curious, please do check in on that, because you can ask your questions here, and we'll get to them first. And speaking of which, our first question here is from Professional Punk Yo, who says, "Good day, SGS. So we've all heard various yammerings about what should be in the live action One Piece, but I've been thinking, what things do you hope get changed in this adaptation process? It's no secret OP is hardly perfect, meaning the live action could improve on weaker or outdated aspects of the manga/anime." So
that is a good question.
That is
a toughie.
It is, yeah. It's hard for guys like us who, specifically because we're talking about East Blue, which is 25 years old at this point. We've had a lot of time to, be used to the way that it works. It's hard to think of, well, what are the flaws? What are the things that need to be improved? We just take it for granted.
I think, I guess, first and foremost, as you just mentioned, since we are dealing with East Blue, East Blue means a focus on Sanji and the good and the bad that comes with that. I'm not of the, Oda needs to redo Sanji, or he needs to, change the character. He needs to show growth. I'm not of that. I'm not fully of that, because I think I'm probably more in line with the Japanese side of that humor, in that, that's not who he is. That's Oda using him as a punching bag.
Right.
And there is humor in there. That's the joke, is that, Sanji is this kind of hopeless romantic, as I think nowadays we'd call it more of like a simp.
Yeah.
And that has a negative connotation with it. Whereas his is more like, he is super expressive. But in many ways, it's not like he's taking advantage of a lot of the female characters. Now, in Wano, I think you can make an argument there that he is, due to the whole bath scene, and that in and of itself is, what are you doing, Oda? That's not 25 years ago. That's now.
Right.
I look at a lot of the stuff back then, and it doesn't really hurt or offend me personally, and I know that doesn't matter because I'm a 40-year-old Caucasian male.
Sure.
But if you carry over that same kind of lovey-dovey attitude to live action, I think it becomes creepy. It becomes disgusting. It is no longer the joke that he is hopelessly fawning over someone. That is something that I think should be addressed, and I think the writer Matt Owens has even gone on record publicly to say that they have made Sanji flirty, but not fawning. So that is probably number one for me.
Yeah, I can see, because it is kind of an issue of degree to some extent, right? It's like it's easy to do a I think, or I can easily imagine a version of Sanji that has that aspect to his character, as you said, the kind of hopeless romantic, a guy who's always trying to be a flirt, trying to get with the women and striking out. And you can do it in ways that are much more harmless, that just don't kind of cross certain lines, and still have kind of that core to his character represented there. So that does seem like a pretty good, example of something that would not work as well, going from page to screen. Right.
I think even the Nami Swan kind of stuff. Obviously, you're not going to be doing San or Chan, Robin Chan or anything in English, but you could have him Nami.
Right.
That's a terrible example, but I mean there are classy ways that you could pull that off. And here you are, Nami. Just with inflection, and with word choice, and that could also go creepy. I mean, there's some fine lines. Here you are, Nami.
Yeah, but it depends on the actress's reaction, the character's reaction to that. Whether that becomes like, that's creepy, or whether that becomes like, oh, okay, so she cuts him down, real quick, and then it's funny. That sort of thing.
I'm a big fan of the anime where it completely rolls off her back. She completely ignores all of it. Yeah. She's just stone faced. Not oh my god. Who is it? This Okumura-san, I think. Is it
Akemi-san?
Akemi?
Yeah.
Akemi-chan.
Mhm.
Akemi. Is she does that chef's kiss. Sanji does his shtick, and she's just, oh, thanks, Sanji. Anyway,
Right, right. Yeah, I think that humor can come across in pretty easily. You just have to, be careful with the degree of it. That's all.
What about you? What do you think? I know I took the easy one. I'm sorry.
No. I don't know. I mean, I don't even know if this is really like a true point or not. But when I try to think of like, okay, what are issues that I have with the early material? I think of like maybe just the kind of dorky vibe of like the Syrup Village arc in general. And like, we've seen we've seen Buggy's introduction, his little like his little promo that they slipped into the trailer of him being real creepy, which I think fits well for the initial impression that you're supposed to get of Buggy when he's like lounging in his throne there in Orangetown. Yeah, I was gonna say Shellstown. No, Orangetown. And he's supposed to be menacing, and then you find out later, kind of how goofy he gets. And I don't know what Kuro is gonna look like, or how they've adapted that story. That's something I have to find out when the show drops. But I could see it's tough because it's like at the same time, when you look at it at the East Blue portion of the story compared to the rest of it, at this point it feels appropriately kind of juvenile in certain ways. Like, it's like you look back at it and you're like, oh, we were so naive back then. Like things were so easy, even though they don't seem that way at the time. It's so much smaller scale and everything. And so I think that is appropriate in a way for some of those early villains to come off as real small time, small potatoes. I don't know how that would, translate in terms of a show where you're trying to impress your audience, a very large audience that is watching and that is going to be skeptical, just as a general, as a neutral state there, you need to win them over. So that might be a little tricky. I'm not sure what that's going to look like. But that's what I think of. That's not really something that I think is necessarily what do I hope gets changed, but it is something that I'm curious about, I guess.
All right.
Yeah.
I think, yeah. What do you think? You think he's gonna do the glasses adjust?
Oh, you gotta, yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's such a cool, character design, like a character thing, a moment or whatever you want to call it. I think that would be very distinctive for that character. So, all right. Anything else you have thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think one more is, and this is kind of the one that more of my personal interests, like something that I personally don't like, or I didn't enjoy at the time of the series. Was I actually don't enjoy most of the Baratier fighting. The drama in Baratier is wonderful.
Yeah.
But the fighting with Krieg that's something that I never really enjoyed very much. And it's long. Whenever I recommend the series to somebody, I always say like, this is the point I want you to get to this volume 9 point. But there is a part of this that's going to be a tough journey, and that is this Krieg arc and all of that. It's so long, his battle with Luffy, and it keeps going. And when you look at the total picture, when you look at what Luffy is doing in the battle, it is interesting. Especially when you see like he's using his head. He's specifically attacking this area over and over and over again, so it cracks and it does this and it does that. That is interesting, and it kind of feels good as a wrap up. But the journey is it's long and tough, and it starts feeling very much like an action manga.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, I generally, when I think of that, I just remember it, kind of like the stage gimmicks, I guess, the jumping around, making sure he doesn't fall in the water, and then all of Krieg's, nonsense with the gas and the spike traps and stuff like that. But I guess, yeah, I don't know.
It was gimmick after gimmick after gimmick,
Mm-hmm.
and it was just like, it's a bit much. I don't know. It was tough for me to get through on my first read, and that was almost the part where I dropped the series.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. That's some interesting commentary on some early One Piece stuff. Let's move on to King Doji, who says, "Hi SGS. How have you guys been? Specifically, Steven, sorry, Greg, not you, specifically me. What have I been doing with the mountains and mountains of free time now that One Piece is on break? Do you think you'll be translating long enough to translate Two Piece?" Well, we did touch on this a little bit in the intro. I did actually have kind of like a little mini vacation, which not necessarily related to the fact that I didn't have any One Piece, because I still do have Akane Banashi. That's still a weekly series, so it's not like I haven't had anything to do. But my other kind of general long term, by the volume type of manga work did have a little bit of a spell in June, which was nice. I got to kind of hang out for a little while. I played a lot of Jedi Survivor. Still making my way through that, but yeah. Otherwise, will I be translating long enough to translate Two Piece? I don't know. I hope so. I guess I don't know. I don't know what Two Piece would be. If it's if he's handing over the reins to Boichi, I don't know if I'm still on along for the ride after that point, but depends. Obviously, I certainly do hope to be still around and working on One Piece to the end. It can't have that much more to go, but we'll see. A couple more surgeries for Oda, and yeah, that could really drag on for a while.
What's he getting next? He's going to get a hand cannon.
Yeah, yeah, finger lengthening surgery.
So far, he's got shoulder cannons. He's got eye beams now. So next, I think he's Mega Blaster. He needs to get that. Yeah.
The nipple lights.
Oh my god! No, because that's heart. So let's forget it. No, didn't say it.
Yeah. Let's keep it away from his chest. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh boy. I love languages because of SGS says, "Hi SGS, as someone who only just started learning Japanese, what would you say are or were your best resources for learning? I know it's not that effective long term, but I've been using Duolingo and thinking about apps like Rosetta Stone." This is tough because
you and I are going to have completely different answers. This is great.
Okay, so I learned in a time before apps. So, I've seen people screenshotting, Duolingo. That's the one with the owl, right? But I've never used them. I don't know how they work specifically. So I can't really speak to, how effective that is or how that's different from the way that I learned. But, I started just taking high school courses, middle school and high school courses, which looking back on it is actually it's a very slow, kind of methodical and very low stakes kind of way to learn. Like once I started studying on my own, I think I learned much, much faster because it was more directly applicable. But you do kind of need that groundwork of understanding, what hiragana and katakana are and how they work and how the verbs work and stuff like that. I don't know. What do you think, Greg?
I have the weirdest experience.
Oh boy.
And it's a little bit Spartan as well. But it's one of those things that it will work for you. So this is actually perfect timing for this. If you're listening and you do have time off because of summer vacation, you don't have classes or maybe some time off from work. I started learning Japanese in the summertime, and our local university, where I'm from, they had Japanese students, they had exchange students, and we inquired about getting a tutor, for basic Japanese. So my mom got in contact with the school, got me a tutor that I was able to meet with once a week. She was a student from Kanagawa, Japan, and we met. And on the first day we met, she handed me a sheet and she said, "All right, she said you're gonna start learning Japanese. You're interested in Japanese. You like what are you interested?" This was even before like Dragon Ball was a thing in the States. I mean, Dragon Ball existed. That's why I was doing this, but it wasn't a thing yet.
Yeah,
and
nobody knew what it was.
Yeah. And she was like, "Okay, look, here's how we're going to start. She said, you cannot learn Japanese unless you know how to write it. And you don't have a lot of time with me. We don't have a lot of time each week. So what's going to happen is I'm going to give you this sheet of 47? I forget what it is.
The kana.
Yeah, hiragana. So this is called hiragana. And I was like, whoa, that's cool. That's a lot. And she's like, yeah. She's like, you have 2 days to remember this. And I said, excuse me? And she said, the first time, this is the first week, so we're going to meet again in 2 days. And at that time, I want you to know all of these. And I was, excuse me? And she's, you don't have classes, you don't have school. I want you to spend the next 2 days memorizing these. She says, you don't necessarily need to know how to write them all, but I want you to be able to read all of them. So now I learned years later that like in schools, and I don't know if you can attest to this or not, but like in schools, they'll spend like the first semester working on hiragana.
Yeah, pretty much. This is like she was like telling you, okay, now you're gonna have to cross your legs and sit under the waterfall and
yes,
discipline. Wow.
So I learned how to read and mostly write hiragana in 2 days, and then she handed me katakana, and she was honest. She was like, "This is katakana, and katakana sucks." And katakana still sucks. I'm looking at you, and so, and chi, and tsu. Those four can go straight to hell. But and then she was like, "All right, you get a couple more days for this one, but I do want you to know this by the time we meet next week." So in whatever it was, I don't know, it was 3 or 4 days until we met again. But that's when I memorized mostly katakana.
That's funny.
So basically in less than 2 weeks, I had hiragana and katakana done, and that was my starting point. Unfortunately, not long after that, she had to go back home for a family emergency. But thanks to that start, I was able to get a good hold on self-study. And then this is the root of the answer. It is I did study abroad for 1 year in a facility called Japan Center for Michigan Universities. If you are listening, I would write that down because it is completely worthwhile. It's Japan Center for Michigan Universities. They call it JCMU. Just Google JCMU and it'll come up. It is an incredible facility in Shiga Prefecture that things were rough through Corona, but I do believe everything is starting to get back to normal, even over here in Japan. And I believe they're taking in new students, or they're looking into taking in students again. But that is a hardcore course. It's almost like having an entire semester with that first tutor that I had. They are no nonsense, and they will work you to the bone. But like that is how I was able to best learn. Now, I don't think it's exactly easy for everyone to pick up and come over to Japan for a semester.
Right.
But if you're looking for the way to do it in the shortest amount of time with some of the best people at this, whose job it is and they're great at it, that is my biggest suggestion.
Yeah, I mean, I did not have anything quite as intensive as that, but like I said earlier, yes, the high school version, like the American high school version of learning Japanese, is very slow. It's very low key. Yes, they take a long time to teach you hiragana and katakana. And because obviously it's not the only thing you're learning. Like that's just that's your one class, your language elective in addition to all of your other classes. And I think they're more realistic about how much you can learn, how much brain space you can dedicate to that while you're doing so many other things. But the thing that I learned is basically, and I always say this when people ask this question, is like the way to actually get there, the way to get through the hump, to get over the hump, and to feel like you are actually, you're not just doing lessons and doing, filling out worksheets and things like that, but that you're actually gaining a practical, usable knowledge of the language to the point where you can like independently figure things out and learn on your own, is like having having something. If it's not a like immersion language course situation where you're surrounded by it in Japan, or taking it from a teacher who will only speak Japanese to you and things like that, you need to have like that interest, something that you can apply it to.
Yeah.
Which for me was working on manga. Originally I tried to I was applying it, the very first way that I was applying it was, I thought, oh man, everybody's all about, this is in the late 90s. It was like the new thing was emulators, where it was like, what? You can play like Nintendo games on your computer and people make patches for Japanese games that I've never seen before? Like what? And so there was this kind of like Wild West, like Gold Rush thing of like, oh, we're working on a patch for this game. We're working on a patch for this game. And so I was like, man, I want to do that. Like I want to hack a ROM and, put English into this, NES RPG, and stuff like that. And, I got through about a day or two of doing that. Like I managed to replace the hiragana with letters, and to be able to replace some of the menu things. And then, I immediately hit a stumbling block, and I was like, I don't actually have the technical knowledge to do this.
Oh.
But that bug of like, oh, I can use these skills. Like I've been taking these classes. I want to do something with this Japanese. And it was as much for figuring things out so that I could enjoy them as it was, being like an altruistic thing where I could help other people. But, and then from there, I discovered that we had a Japanese bookstore, and that was where I was like, oh, manga, that's way easier. Like I don't have to do anything except for, type in text on a text file. And that was really the thing. And it was terrible at first. Like I had no idea what I was doing. I made so many mistakes, it was mostly mistakes. But over time, by sticking with it and just repeating that process, I started to figure out how things work. And I mean, as I'm saying this, I'm realizing like this sounds like, From Software games or something like that. Like just, you're going to be bad at it. Just, stick with it and you'll eventually figure it out. And like, that is kind of how it worked for me. Where eventually you just kind of start to see how things work. You learn, you see things in different contexts and are able to apply what you know about the first context to the second context. And, eventually, it was at a point where I was like, wait, I'm actually like half reading these things on the fly. Like that's crazy. I didn't realize, and once I hit that point, then I was, truly hooked, because you get that feeling of like, I'm actually getting somewhere with this. That's it's a long process. It's a tough process. But I think that's probably the thing that helped me more than anything else, was just finding a way to apply it that was mentally rewarding, that kept me coming back to it and kept me focused on it. Because if you don't have that thing that is pulling you through it, then as soon as you have to put it down, as soon as you have to focus on something else in your life, like it's those all that knowledge is going to start filtering out of your brain. You can pick it back up, but it's you're not going to be making progress on it, and that's what's going to kill the forward momentum.
It is. It's all about the bug, isn't it?
Yeah. So, you got it.
One of my big ones, I think, was you were mentioning video games, Japanese video games, was the getting into Dragon Ball. It was like, you look at manga, like manga are the pictures, and you can kind of follow the story, and that's cool because they're not moving, but they're sequential. Mm-hmm. And one of the first things I was like, oh man, I finally understand like what all these video games are in the back of my Electronic Gaming Monthly. All these spiky haired, it's like all these import games. I finally get it, and that's when I started to get some of the Super Famicom Dragon Ball games, and bringing them over, plugging them into my adapter that I got from Chinatown, and not being able to understand a thing. It's not moving constantly like a manga, so you can't follow the story. You have to know the context and what characters are saying to each other, right? Because it's a static image on the screen. And when I started to be able to navigate menus, that was a real I'm doing this, this is happening. Right. I'm actually understanding some of this. So yeah, it's about finding what sparks joy.
I'm just gonna say, before we go any further onto the subject of games and learning Japanese, because I could spend the rest of the day talking about that. But hopefully that was some useful information for I love languages because of SGS. We'll move on to our next question from Ken of Red Lions, who says, "Hello, Stephen and Greg. I have a very important One Piece related question for you. Green tea or black tea?"
Ooh.
Whole Cake Island. Yeah. Are you a tea person?
I'm not crazy into tea, but I've had enough of it. Green tea or black tea? Which one is which? I'm trying to think of the chawans that, or the not chawans, the little cups that come out. Which one was which? They had these ridiculous Golgo 13 faces, right?
Yeah. I'm actually he the kind of Red Lions did post the panel. They're like the they're not the cups, they're the canisters of
the canisters, right? Tea, the canisters of the powder and the leaves, the herbs, the leaves. Yeah. That's right,
the green tea is the one who has a bit of a Golgo face.
Okay. And
then the tea has sunglasses. It looks very silly. The black tea, I should say.
Okay. I'm gonna have to go green tea.
I like them both. We got an electric kettle in the past year or so, and that's become kind of a nighttime habit. And depending on how I feel, I can go black tea, I can go green tea. I think I like matcha green tea more than like the sencha, like the real light green, real fresh tea leaves. I kind of like it when you get a little more of the powder in there.
Right.
That's my favorite style. But I don't know. I couldn't pick between them. Yeah.
Most of my time over here has been in the nearer Kyoto. So, and I mean, Kyoto's all about that. So
yes.
So yeah, matcha powder before the win.
Yeah.
But I mean, black tea is a big thing over here. Which I guess is closer to English tea or something.
Yeah.
But boy, there is a brand. It's Gogo Gogo no Kolcha or Gogo no Cha or something like that.
Like
Gogo no
the one
Kolcha.
in the plastic bottles.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now those, they mix in milk and sugar.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
and those, that's where it's going to get difficult. But if we're going straight Kocha, straight green tea, then green tea.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I like the milk tea, as they call it.
Yes.
That stuff's good.
You know, when I was in college, I had no money. I was talking about JCMU earlier, yeah? And I had to support myself over here, and we weren't allowed to work as students. So it was everything I had saved up prior to that point I was using to survive over here. And near the end of my semester, I had, being the genius that I was as a young student, I had used up most of my money before I had about a month of school left. So I survived about 3 weeks on Gogo no on milk tea powder, and what was it? Not like cup noodle, but like cup udon.
Oh,
so like that carried me through about a month.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oof.
Good times.
Yeah,
Life
the
lessons.
things you can do when you're young. Let's see. Wisdom Pythagoras says, "Hello SGS. Do you have a favorite chapter? I'm a huge fan of chapter 900 personally, Bad End Musical, just for how it depicts Big Mom as literally having her cake and eating it too. Love how it solidified the terror of what an emperor was at that time, as she's able to go wild on her urges and not worry about repercussions because her crew is so capable, much like Luffy and the Straw Hats are at times. Thank you, Stephen and Greg." It's an interesting choice. Yeah.
That is an interesting choice. That's
a memorable chapter. That is for sure.
Yeah. This is if you're a longtime listener, you know my answer to this. It is, and it's such a toss up, but I gotta say, 234, which is Please Remember It. That's the name of the title. I'm not asking people to please remember. That's the name of the chapter, which is still, I'm pretty sure, just like a message from Oda, like literally looking at the reader, like, please remember this because it's important.
Is that the same chapter? I'm trying to remember, because when I was thinking of this, I was like, what was the moment, in my life when I was the most hyped to see a scene or something? And I'm thinking of the scene where we do see Shanks, and he said, what does he say? Like, Kitakarufi or something like that. And he's in the dark, he just got visited. That isn't the same chapter, is it?
It is not.
Okay.
That is around the time. That is
it's the same
like
volume-ish.
No, that is.
Is it?
Because that's quite early on. That's, I think, maybe like the worst in East Blue, like around that point.
Oh, it was before they go to the Grand Line.
Yes.
Ish. Okay.
Yes.
Maybe I'm mixing that up. I was assuming that was because he does have a scene, in around 25, volume 25.
He does. He sure does.
Yeah.
And that's it's kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
It's,
right.
It's like, guess we should get moving or something like that.
Right,
like that's. But yes, that is the Kitaka is, that one's where he has the weird ears, right? He has the ears that are like. I like it because to me that's Shanks, but yeah, he has weird ears there.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like if you tried to frame it as like, what is the best chapter or something like that, it gets so tricky because it depends on how you're defining that. Like what is the single like best constructed chapter? I don't know. I mean, we've done some manga recaps on the podcast where we finished and I was like, man, that was just a great recap. Like what a fascinating chapter, but I wouldn't be able to remember what the chapter was or what the scene was. So I kind of have to go back a little further into the past to, remember the time when I was so impressionable that I would have, remembered it forever. So stuff like that definitely sticks out to me. Like the first time you see those big moments of like calling back to old characters and you're like, oh my God, he could do this. Um, and then he does it again and again and again.
Yeah, that's I guess the question is what is your favorite chapter?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that is without a doubt my favorite chapter.
That's your favorite.
There are other favorite scenes or more important scenes, but yeah, you bring up a really good point about what is a good chapter? Like, what is the best chapter in your opinion? And that is an entirely different answer.
Mm-hmm.
Because of all those reasons you just mentioned is like how does he construct it? How does everything play out?
Yeah.
And stuff that goes even beyond what I would be able to appreciate in terms of paneling and movement. But that is, I'm lucky that wasn't the question. In other words, favorite chapter 234, yeah. Where we get to meet some of the powers in the world.
Nice. Yeah, I would have to sit down and kind of flip through the series and actually solidify what that answer would be for me to give you a straight answer. Unfortunately, yeah, I was just thinking while you're mentioning that I was recently listening to I've been kind of behind on podcasts, and I was just recently listening to the recap for 1086, the last one with the Figureland and the elders and all of that stuff. And it was interesting because it's such an overload of like references and information and connections that you can make to other things. And the podcast recap was like, they were like, yeah, all this stuff is really interesting, but also like as a chapter of a manga, it's just so dry. Like they're just sitting around talking, and nothing is very little is actually happening with the characters. And, that's a totally fair way to look at some of this stuff, because some of the most fascinating chapters are also just info dumps where,
yeah,
you just kind of look at it and it's like, yeah, we learned a lot, but like what happened or what was really exciting about it, it depends on, I guess what you hope to get out of a chapter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's and that's, I don't know, I guess that's why it's what's favorite or what's best is going to be different for everybody.
Sure.
Yeah.
Our last question on Discord here is from Big Mike, who says, "Oh no, is it true that Oda is getting eye surgery to get X-ray vision to see through women's clothes? I'd expect that kind of behavior from you guys, but not Oda." Wow, I feel like I feel like this question was meant for like the rest of the podcast, not us. We're the serious ones.
Oh, if my wife ever hears this.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good. I'm good on the X-ray vision. No, we're good.
Yeah. Have you? I mean, by the way, this is and I don't know if you have heard anything, or if you would be at liberty to share. So feel free to disregard. But have you heard anything about like how he's coming along?
So funny story. I got yelled at the other day.
Oh. Uh-oh.
They're like, "You're being a little bit too free." With some of your commentary. On Twitter and whatnot. And I've been pushing things a little bit because news has been coming out, and
right.
I've been a little bit vocal, and I knew I was going to push a few buttons, and I did. But they're like, you did you say that Oda's eye surgery is complete or done? And I was like, no, I didn't, because I honestly I don't know when it was, but I did say he's in good spirits. And they're like, well, it doesn't matter. Don't say that. And I was like, oh, all right, duly noted, but I did not say that. But so the one thing I can confirm is that he is in good spirits. I have no idea when the eye surgery was. I don't know when it was over or how he's coming along and whatnot. And I'm not even going to offer any conjecture on that.
Right.
But I will say he's in good spirits.
Okay.
That's he's a rambling guy.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. All right. Let's move on then to Twitter at our hashtag SGS Sensei. If you want to ask any questions, that's a good place to go. I'm trying to remember. Okay, yeah, well, that's right. I remember this question, the one about, you were telling the story about Ichika, Nika, Sanka, Yonka, and Yonka 2, and everybody cracking up, remembering that joke. That's a great one. I don't think we covered this one. This one's from Jackson at Nine Claw Tiger, who says, this is an excuse to talk about Rakugo. Did Oda's interest in Rakugo prepare Steven for working on Akane Banashi? Has Oda given a shout out to young series like he did for Akane Banashi before? Could you recommend ways to enjoy Rakugo performances from outside Japan? Well, he's definitely given shout outs to series before.
Sure has.
Yeah.
Usually former assistants.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They're part of my collection. I'm missing some of them. I got to track them down, and that's a pain in the butt. But there have been several series like, God, I don't know if you could call it young at the time. I mean, comparatively it was, but Promise Neverland, he did a shout out for them.
Oh, nice.
It was on their Obi. There was, oh God, what was the name of it? I think it was like Beat Girl or something like that.
I was going to say, I distinctly remember him drawing, it was like some girl with a little bob haircut, and like she was a fighter or something. That's the one I'm thinking of, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. He did that. So I ended up, in order to get the one with the Obi, the cover slip on it.
Right.
I had to buy a full set of the series.
Oh, no.
There's that. What else was there? Garudo. I think Mao something Garudo, which was by one of his former long-term assistants. That was a series that ran in Saikyo Jump, meaning it's for little kids.
Right.
And it was kind of like an action adventure series. He did a shout out for them on the Obi. He actually drew a picture of the main character. There's a couple that I'm just going to. Oh, Shigatsu no Uso. I think he did it. Yeah, he did a shout out for that.
Mm-hmm. Right? July and April. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, he does. He gets around in terms of recommendations. It doesn't always. It's not the the Midas touch that turns every series into gold. A lot of them have just been, they come and go. But he definitely draws his little doodles and gives comments for series that he likes. Yeah. And I'm not surprised that he did that. Obviously for Akane Banashi, given his very public love for Rakugo. As far as did his interest in Rakugo prepare me for working in it? Not really, although I do remember, having some familiarity with a few stories based on, learning that they were things that he was referencing in One Piece. Like I told the whole story. I actually gave my own little like Rakugo performance of it was the Nuke Suzume. Yeah,
I remember that
from Kanjuro because that was a Rakugo story, and that was fun to work on that. And I don't think there have actually been any like direct overlaps where there was a story that pops up in Akane that was used as a reference point in one. But it'll probably happen at some point, but just because of the number of Rakugo stories that are out there, they're not infinite. But there hasn't really been too much of a direct overlap so far. But it's interesting because I keep having this kind of quandary about Akane, because I think it's a really good series. It's not been like a mega hit. It's not a Jujutsu Kaisen or, a Demon Slayer level hit, but clearly the editorial staff loves it. Like they push it really hard. It gets a lot of color pages, a lot of center color and stuff like that. And that's really cool. And I think that the characterization is really is really good, but it's one of those series where the characterization and like the story that they're telling in the manga often like kind of supersedes the actual Rakugo story. Like, because most Rakugo is, it's like there's some comedic situation, or it could be dramatic, it could be scary. There are different kind of flavors of Rakugo, but one of the classic elements of it is that it goes through this humorous story of these kind of weird, kooky characters that are scheming in some way or doing something or other. And then at the end, there's always like a pun. It's the sage, or the ochi as they call it, which is basically like, just kind of to wrap it up, there's a little punchline at the end where it's a very Japanese pun, because of course these are old fashioned stories. It ties the story back around. It goes back to reference an earlier point. And that's kind of like the dun dun, that's the little sign that the story is over. And a lot of times, like, the translation has to kind of take that into account of like, okay, I have to be ready for, there's going to be this pun at the end or something. I have to study the whole story to make sure that I understand how this might work in English. And a lot of times in this manga, in the Akane Banashi manga, they don't actually show the ending. They kind of gloss over it. They get about halfway through and then they kind of gloss over it, and they might skip to the final bit, or they might just sort of stop in the middle, and just focus on the characters' reactions and stuff. But I feel like it's not the best ambassador for what Rakugo is in terms of helping people understand how it plays out on stage. So I always kind of worry about that, of like, do people, like, is this coming across at all? Like, does this make sense to anybody? And it is a little tricky like that. As far as Rakugo resources, or like ways to enjoy them, I think there are like English language Rakugoka. There are people in Japan who kind of learn the stories and kind of regurgitate them in English in a way that
textbook.
What's that?
One of them's in the 5th grade English textbook for elementary schools across Japan. Yes.
Well, there you go. Yeah. And I know that I've seen on YouTube, there are some, like bilingual Japanese Rakugoka who, as kind of a sort of cultural outreach, that's, they might travel or, go to other countries or go to places where they do perform a story in English, and maybe they'll help explain what some of these things are as they're telling the story and stuff like that. So that's probably your best bet, is just like look around on YouTube and see what you can find. Because there are probably people who are kind of putting in the work to help spread it beyond the Japanese language audience. But it is really tough to kind of get the full experience across, just because it is so just innately Japanese. Like, it's just so steeped in that kind of like 19th century, like a bit before pre-modernization era Japan, and a lot of the like the different types of people that exist, the different characters that exist in the town, the different professions that there are. And it's like, you imagine like The Simpsons in old-timey Japan, where there's some kooky version of each different possible profession that you see, and that's kind of how Rakugo works too. So I don't know. Yeah, I would be curious to see if anybody looks up that sort of stuff, and what they learn on YouTube and elsewhere. But yeah, I'm stuck in the Japanese side of things. Like, I have to figure them out, from the original sources.
All this, speak of wordplay and the work that goes into that, and the knowledge that you've accumulated. I guess having all of that makes you a pundit for Rakugo.
Oh,
Jun Jun.
Dun dun. There you go. And that's how it goes. Yes. All right. That'll do it for Rakugo. Noel DeMartin. has a question. When One Piece ends, will there be an event in Japan to celebrate the series, or is Jump Festa the place to be? I don't know what happens in Japan when a manga ends, but having read One Piece for most of my life, I wouldn't want to miss that.
It's an interesting question.
Yeah.
And my from the hip for this, and this is an unfortunate answer, is it's almost like the sound of a tree falling in a forest when no one is around. If you know what I'm talking about, this is the saddest thing. When manga ends, it's the majority of series don't even get to be on the cover as a almost unspoken rule.
Yes.
They don't get to be on the cover. I think maybe Kochikame broke that. I don't remember exactly.
Yeah, there are exceptions, but there are exceptions to the rule. It's that sort of thing.
Yeah. I mean, even Naruto didn't get a cover. I don't believe Dragon Ball got a cover, and that's like why they keep up with it, is because like if Dragon Ball didn't get a cover, then
nobody gets a cover.
Nobody gets
Yeah, I mean, I believe I've always understood it to mean that like just as a general like philosophy, it's you always want to focus on the new thing. You always want to be bringing up, the new stuff. You want to nurture the future of the magazine rather than, doing a big retrospective, like look back at, this series, which is ending now. And there's a certain logic to that. I think it does kind of make sense to some degree, although I think from our perspective, it probably does seem a little strange that you wouldn't, capitalize on it a bit more.
Yes. Yeah. And I do think the times being the times, things will probably be a little bit different for One Piece in terms of an event. I don't know about an event, but you'll certainly hear about it at Jump Festa. It'll be pumped up hyped up at Jump Festa. That's for sure. And now that things are coming back from Corona, we're bouncing back. You're starting to see more summer events. So that gives you basically 2 events per year. And if One Piece is going to end, I do think that Oda is such a stickler for theatrics that he would do it on its anniversary. So interesting, right around this time of year, which is also right around the time. Oh God, it's hilarious. One Piece started like basically on when Japanese summer for schools for Japanese summer vacation starts, and like that's when all the Fuji TV events happen. But the only thing you have to remember about the Fuji TV summer events is that they are anime related, and Toei and Shueisha, and we've discussed this before. As much as they seem like similar entities, they are entirely different things.
Yes.
So what Fuji TV has to hype up is, and they'll maybe do the series a solid in terms of like, hey, the manga's finishing, but like they can't use Oda's illustrations. They can only use the anime's illustrations, which makes it very awkward. You'll notice this on every event at Fuji Television over the years. It's always the anime images and never any of the original illustrations in the largest promotional materials. So it's interesting. It's a good question, but it has 2 chances, and the biggest chance, without question, would be Jump Festa. But I don't think he's going to end it, around that time of year. I think he's going to aim for summertime. That's my 2 yen.
All of that stuff said about like the way that Jump typically, celebrates or does not celebrate the end of a series. I mean, that's for everybody else, like we said, well, if Dragon Ball doesn't get it, nobody gets it. But if One Piece wants it, One Piece will get it. So, anything is on the table, I think, in terms of commemorating the end of One Piece. Anything is possible. Let's see.
人の夢は終わらない.
Yeah, that's right. Actually, this is good to hear. This kind of leads into from that question. Otterman at Gachimuchiman1, that's a great name, says, Oda hasn't let go of the gas pedal since we left Wano. It's been revelation after revelation. Do you think he was being serious when he said One Piece will end in 5 years back in 2019? Of course he was serious when he said it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think I've mentioned this before, but I have thus far. What? Yeah.
How many times you've
I'm sorry. The word
this?
I'm opening the word file is not fast enough to catch up with how many pages I've written.
Technology.
It took it's how much. 54 pages and 25,000 words is what I've written so far on the topic. This very topic. And I'm going to be putting this together at some point for a video or some kind of audio thing. But I have gone through and listed every single time that he's spoken about the end of the series. Do I think he was serious? I think he was dead serious. I think he's completely serious every time he says it. But I think also in some of the instances, it's wishful thinking, and he knows it's wishful thinking. Well, this is taking away some of my own, fire here. That I
don't give away too much. Here.
I don't want to give away too much, but I will say that he said in 2000. Oh boy, 2003. I think January 2000. No, it was released January 2003. He said it at the end of 2002, where he said in an interview with a Shueisha published manga, like kind of magazine, like a almost like a Vogue for manga.
Mm-hmm.
It only lasted one issue and it was a complete failure. But luckily, that first issue dealt almost entirely with One Piece.
Nice.
So we got a lot of interesting information. It was called Manga Omo. And he mentioned in that interview that if One Piece were to be told to completion, he would need 20 years to tell the story.
Mm-hmm.
And this is back in 2002. Mm-hmm. And the series had been going for 5 years to that point. So basically, he was saying when he said 20 years, he meant from start to finish, not 20 years from that statement.
From that point,
yeah. But basically, that meant he had 15 years to go from that point. Mm-hmm. He's still going.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that you see he hit it at almost. He was almost on point, and he it seemed like he was overshooting with that answer, but it also seemed that at that time he was accepting that what he wanted to tell was going to take a very long time. Mm-hmm. Fast forward just 4 or 5 years from then, and he starts saying stuff like I think I have I think I'm over halfway done or this or that, and he starts pulling back, and you notice over time that he starts. Even though he said it's going to take 20 years, it's going to take this massive amount of time, he starts pulling back everything. And I think that's a little bit of that is on purpose. And that's why I say there's a little bit of theatrics involved in it.
Yeah.
Is that, yes, he did want to be, but he also doesn't want people to feel weighed down by how much more there is to go. And that's a bold and bright move, I think. Because, of course, the hardcore fans are going to be like, yeah, but that's not always who he's writing for. I mean, he's writing for the fans, but as a manga author, you also need to be writing for new fans and new people and get them interested. And if you tell your heavy casuals, you've got 15 years to go, or you're not going to even understand what One Piece is for another 20 years.
Yeah,
that's not good business. Yeah. So.
Yeah, and not to mention too, when he makes these statements, it kind of goes unstated, but there are other, audiences that hear these things too, which is the higher ups at Shueisha. Like, he has this particular relationship with the company itself, being the biggest thing around. He's aware that this is a cash cow for Shueisha. This is, funding however many years of them still being in business, basically. And so him saying, he can't just come out and say, well, all right, guys, you got 3 more years of me. And then we're ending this, the golden goose. We're going to slaughter it and make a meal and everything. And, that's a tricky thing to do too. So he's also, I'm sure, kind of taking that, the weight that his statements have with the company itself into account when he says these things too.
Yeah. Yep. It's a very, very complicated topic.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a fun one too. It's really fun to kind of look at his, see where he was in life when he's giving some of these answers.
Right.
And certain events that occurred in his life, like when he's getting married, like, oh my God, it's so much fun. I really want to, share it as soon as possible, but it's just such a massive project that it's not going to be a reality for some time. But that is a great question.
All right. Well, the clock is ticking. It's only going to be fresh for so many years before it expires. Next question is from Perona Fan Account at Gold Joker, who says, can you tell us your first experience with Oda Sensei? How did you meet him? What were your expectations, context, etc.? Now, you have said this, you've told this story before on the podcast.
So I'm guessing I think I recognize this individual from Twitter, and I don't know how long they've been following me exactly, which I'm sorry about that, but I have noticed a lot of activity recently, so maybe a new follower, I'm not sure, but if you are interested in hearing the full story, that is available on the One Piece podcast. I told the story once, and I think Zach at one point made like a compilation of the journey.
I think it was that Greg's Bizarre Adventure. I think it's
Greg's Bizarre Adventure.
That one has a couple different stories and stages of your path to meeting Oda.
Yeah, the journey. That is the absolute best thing to listen to if you're interested, because it's everything that happened along from being a fan to doing TV stuff to doing article writing to finally getting to the Tezuka Awards. And just to kind of summarize that specific aspect of it, the Tezuka Awards is at year's end they have something they call the Big Two Awards, and it's the Tezuka and the Akatsuka award for like best, I guess, mainline series, like action adventure series, and then the best comedy series. They broke it up into the different genres. One for Tezuka for the mainline, and then Akatsuka for the comedy series. And it's a big I'd say gala, but gala like brings up images of people in fine dress, and like, yes, there's that as well, but it's also like the mangaka go dressed in like Adidas, like mafia wear.
Yeah.
So like it's
the sport coat
yes,
and jeans. Yeah. That sort of thing.
Yeah. So it's a big event at a glitzy hotel in Tokyo, and through my writing job is where I got invited to that award ceremony. And my first year there is when they told me that you're going to be meeting Oda, and I didn't know what to say. I mean, I was told this in advance, so I was like, may my wife come with me? And like, yeah, sure, no problem. So the two of us, got all dolled up and went out. And after the awards had ended, we saw that he was in a VIP room. Not him, but we saw that he was there in the VIP room. And at one point, who was it at the time? It was Isaka-san at the time. The editor Isaka came up to me and was like, all right, let's go. And I was like, oh my God. And this was after having met like Morita sensei and Araki, right? Araki sensei.
From JoJo's?
Yeah, from JoJo. That's the JoJo reference. And all of these, like Akimoto sensei, and the photographer who was there doing the event for doing photos for Shueisha at the event, he had met me through my work with the column, because he took all the ridiculous pictures of me doing these stupid poses that they continue to use for the column every month. And he was like, "Oh, Greg," he's like, let me take you around." So he took me around and meeting all these like manga literally living manga legends. And it was just like, this is so cool. This is amazing. This is great. But then when Isaka was like, "All right, let's go," it was just like, it's go time. And I'll never forget being walked over to the room and walk in, and there he is. And he stands up and he's like, "Haven't I seen you on TV?"
Yeah.
And I mean, just perfect. The good dude knows exactly what to say at all times. And the insane thing about this was, and I'm skipping over a lot of stuff, but at the very end,
I'm like, are you saying what I'm thinking? You're the part of the story you're gonna say?
Yeah. Nozawa Masako walks into the room.
The voice of Goku. The
voice of Goku and Kreha. And it's just like, what is going on? And she sits down right in front of me. It's very personal. It's not like this it's chair in front of each other, and it's me and my wife and Oda and Nozawa-san, and it's just like, this is absolutely bizarre, and I had no idea this was going to happen, but this is one of the greatest moments in my life. And it was just a true pleasure to meet the both of them there. I mean, literally reasons for why I would in the country doing what I do. The two of them right there, and an amazing experience that I hope everyone in whatever their dream or whatever their goal is in life, to be able to have a moment like that. I do hope your journey leads you in that direction for whatever your goals may be. Yeah, that's a very kind of nostalgic look back on it. But if you want the full story with all the details, I do recommend looking for that Greg's Bizarre Adventure One Piece podcast episode.
Yeah, for sure. We have something from Zach Logan. I think yes. Okay. Some guy, he tagged, so he tagged it. This was in reference to a question. I'm not sure. Did you actually respond to this? No, it doesn't look like it. Okay. So Zach is looking at the scene. What is this? Chapter 1040. It is the scene where Big Mom is traveling down the hole. She is, plunging toward the earth after getting knocked. Or I'm not sure if she's through Onigashima at this point, but she's kind of trapped in the bubble. And she is thinking to herself, because she can't speak, I guess, what is it? Where is it? Some of it's in this country too, isn't it? Oh, I'm so close. Kid, law, they'll pay for this. So, this is obviously the scene where she gets defeated.
I think, isn't she closer to isn't she in the core at that point?
Maybe she is. I
think she is.
I don't recall. You can see in this sequence that, there's like bombs above her and rock that is falling above her. That's why I wasn't sure where exactly it was. But yeah, Zach is asking, is Big Mom literally looking at Pluton here? Could the ancient weapons and the One Piece be intertwined in some way? Plus, Pluton may be her ride out of there. And then he adds, I tagged you, Greg, because I keep thinking of your hashtag SGS Sensei discussion where you mentioned that Kaido and Big Mom are only temporarily out of the picture. It feels relevant.
You want to take that first, or?
So, yeah, I don't make this as she is looking at Pluton, but I am still curious about, so this panel, the line where she says, and I translated it as, some of it's in this country too, isn't it? Where I had to be very vague, because I believe in the Japanese, it was like, kono kuni ni mo aru ndaro, or something like that, right? Where it's like something, whatever she's referring to, is also in this country. So presumably it means, something that is pluralized, that is not a singular object, but something that is also in this country, which could be referring to the ancient weapon. But it's not clear from the scene. Did you have any thoughts about this?
I do not think that she is staring at the weapon there. However, the weapon being present there is certainly a major plot point. Whenever the country is opened and Zunisha swings that lovely trunk into the side of the wall leading up to the mountain leading up to Wano.
Bang bang, Zunisha silver hammer.
Yes. When that comes down, I mean, it's going to be a plot point. Mom and Kaido, whether they're in there yucking it up right now, I mean, who knows? I personally see them as being stuck because of the explosion that occurred. I see them being stuck in the like igneous rock, and then they've somehow used hockey to survive the impossibly burning, hot burning temperatures, and they just got like not frozen, but for term solidified into the literal walls of Wano. So whenever that's released, they're going to be released from that now.
And that's presumably the same thing. That's the same status that Pluton is in, right? That it's stuck in the wall. Yeah.
Well, I don't know if stuck in the wall or stuck under, because when they destroy that wall, it's going to drain Wano, right? And then finally you get Mount Fuji being this gigantic,
even bigger,
even bigger mountain, and it will resemble its initial, I guess, Wano-ness or form. But I wonder if it's under all of that, not necessarily in the walls. If it's in the walls, then maybe Mom and Kaido have found their way there. But I don't know. What do you think? If they are frozen in the walls, I just get this image of like the two of them coming out, like looking like they haven't like superhuman super soldier Captain America.
This real shrunken muscles and atrophy and everything. Wow.
Yes. Yeah.
I didn't think that. I'm just thinking of, Rita Repulsa, like after 10,000 years, I'm finally free, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I'm sure. I mean, he's got to do something like that, especially with the way that he left them. However they return, it has to have some real impact. It's got to be some ridiculous scenario.
Yeah.
For sure.
I don't think, in summary, I don't think that was Pluton she was looking at. Pluton playing a role in the story, possibly related to the two of them, is likely. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Bantu King has an interesting question. Years ago, One Piece. I'll read the question first. We might quibble with the wording here. Years ago, One Piece got massively boycotted in Japan because of that infamous unknown soldier joke. Do you think One Piece's popularity has managed to recover from this? Now, I believe what he's referring to is the Sergeant Yokoi thing, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Who, all right, so to elaborate, as I understand the situation, so Sergeant Yokoi was a figure very, very well known in Japan, and I think the trope has lived on in other, I know that there are like episodes of TV that in America that deal with the same topic, is that he was a soldier who was stuck on one of those islands in the Pacific, in the World War II theater, and he was basically left behind and was just kind of living in the jungle for years and years before they finally found out that he was there. And I think they had to convince him to come back to Japan as well, because it was well after the war was over. And, he was still, he considered himself a soldier of Imperial Japan. And so there's a lot of kind of complicated feelings wrapped up in that for the Japanese people. And it was, I don't remember which volume this was. It wasn't that long ago, actually.
No,
I think
it was in Whole Cake, I think.
Yeah. And Oda had it was the inside flap, the author comment, where, as he often is, very glib, kind of joking around about stuff. And he had a comment that referenced Sergeant Yokoi in some way that was, very kind of lighthearted and maybe not the most appropriate. And there was some level of reaction to that. It's to the point that they retracted or they reprinted it or something, and they just removed the comment. There's no, I think after a certain printing, there's no comment in the flap, right? They didn't replace that.
Wow, I have no idea.
I don't know either.
I just have the original, so
yeah, exactly. I have the first printing as well,
cool.
because they print 2 freaking million of them. So yeah, but yes, it was a bit of a kind of, he stuck his foot in his mouth a little bit on that one. Do you have anything more? Do you know anything more about that?
So, this is a little bit fuzzy because this is pre-Corona stuff, and this is going back, a number of years. It's not that long ago, but I do remember there was a lot of review bombing going on Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
Amazon customers pretty much piled on, but I mean that's an easy thing to do. One Piece is a big target.
Yes.
Yeah.
To be clear, people pile on every volume already on Amazon. Like if you look on the Amazon page, the top voted reviews or whatever are all like, Oda fell off. Like, what are we even doing anymore? Just end the series. And it's been that way for 15 years at least. Like, that's just kind of a given. So that's not too far out of the ordinary already.
Yeah. But I guess the point was it was magnified.
Yeah.
And it did catch some attention. I don't know if it was on necessarily the news, television news, but it did make the internet news rounds.
Sure.
And it was a big deal. Was it a massive deal? Was it something that they covered on the nightly news? I don't remember anything of that nature happening.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't like a nationwide like
scandal.
Boycott.
Yeah,
scandal. It wasn't to that extent. And I think people who were really looking for numbers at the time, I think there was some sort of impact on sales. But it wasn't anything that was like permanent, and it might not even have been related to that. And I say that only because One Piece has been in something of a slump. Now, a slump for One Piece is what any other series
would take in a heartbeat.
Dream of doing. It's like, but compared, looking at itself in a mirror, compared to its own success, it isn't something of a slump since the 2009 boom. I guess 2009 to 2015-16 boom.
Mm-hmm.
And it has not really recovered from that. But that's it. It's not due to the boycott or any meaningful boycott that occurred because of that comment.
Mm-hmm.
I think at the time, if you looked at some of the sales numbers, there may have been an impact. I do remember people, really closely looking at those numbers and thinking like, oh yeah, well that is a difference. But it's also just the series itself. Not rebounding. I mean, the printings are still are all there.
Right.
The printings are still massive. People are still buying it. The issue is, are people purchasing it from Volume 1? Are new fans, starting from Volume 1 and reading it? If One Piece ever does that again, I don't know how Dragon Ball at this point can even, claim to have this, even on a worldwide level, have the same financial impact.
Right.
And that's maybe a hot take. I don't know, but I mean, it would mean that it reaches a level of popularity so high that a absurd percentage of the Japanese population are actively reading One Piece
Right.
And it was already ridiculous. But every year you're getting a new population, and every 5 years you have a new generation, and it is not picking up the new generation, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but not what Oda wants to be doing. He does want that new generation.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's yes. There is a it is so much of a known quantity. It is the most known quantity that you could possibly have in Japan in terms of like media. There's no untapped market that hasn't heard of One Piece in Japan, and it's a victim of its own success, if anything. That there's just not much else, nowhere else to go really within the country that is going to cause a big upswell. And because it is so long, because there's so much behind it, it is hard to expect that kids growing up are going to attach to it the same way that they do with the thing that is actually new, that is actually being created kind of before their eyes, in a sort of communal way, that the way that, popular manga come together with, the children of their generation. It's just kind of something that it's like the laws of social physics or something. It makes that almost impossible to do. But, the lasting power obviously is certainly there.
What is interesting is how popular Uta is. That has been interesting as F. That is insane. Because you'll be like One Piece, and kids will be like, "Oh, Uta ski," and it's just like, "Oh wow." It's not like he flubbed. It's not like Oda messed up. Because any interest is good interest, and any news is good news. But like, he now has probably two to three grade levels of kids, potential readers, who are just solely into Uta.
Yeah.
Like One Piece, they'll be like, I don't know the story, but I love Uta, and they know the song, they know the dancing, they sing it at karaoke. In Bounty Rush, they use Uta and everything, everybody from the movie. But like, they're like, yeah, I don't really know what the rest of the crew are, and it's just like, oh man, like how it's, to me, it's just unfathomable. But like, it's because Uta was, as you said, it was the hot thing, and it had this kind of it was a cultural spark. But yeah, it's been fascinating to watch that.
I am curious to see if there is a longer term effect because of the success of Film Red, if that carries over to the manga to any degree.
She'll be in there.
Well, I wasn't thinking of within the manga, but just in terms of the numbers, like we were talking about.
But she'll be in there. Yeah, I guarantee you.
Let's see. Cal at Cal Doty. What does Steven do during break month? I'm sure he has lots of other tasks that keep him occupied, but what are they? Well, every week I have a Akane Banashi to work on. That can take time, depending on the material. I was kind of waiting. It did not get it in today, although I kind of expected to. At the end of the month is when I get the Shoha Shoten, the Owarai, the Manzai manga that I work on, that is drawn by Takeshi Obata. And that is always a big deal because that's a monthly series. Those are long chapters, and again, similar to it's very Japanese topic. It's sometimes it requires a lot of work to kind of bend into a shape that still works, that it is still entertaining in English. So I'll have that on my plate at some point this week. And otherwise, I work with a lot of publishers. There's always other stuff going on that needs my attention. So it was a rare chance this last week or two to actually sit down and just veg out and play a video game for a long time. Yeah.
Final Fantasy 16.
That's you, yeah. All right. Got a couple more here. B at Champagne Brokey says, what do you envision Laughtail to be? With the whale symbolism connected to progress of these Straw Hats, do you think it is connected to the island? Also, with Roger's incurable disease and Chopper's dream, do you think Usopp's I can't go on that island disease is real? With the whale symbolism connected to progress of these Straw Hats, do you think it is connected to the island? What do you suppose that means?
Meaning the Laboon and the family, maybe, and then I don't know, maybe the tree on Zoe.
Yeah, maybe that's what he's talking about.
That's an interesting thought. Is like, is part of that sickness like from having gone to Raftel, or like what they needed to accomplish to go to Raftel, right?
For Roger, yeah.
Yeah, my thought has always been: is Raftel even on the planet?
The planet, yeah.
Excuse me, Raftel.
Laughtail, yeah.
Sorry, Japanese on the brain. Laughtail.
Mm-hmm.
That's still weird for me. Sorry.
Yeah, that's still weird. Yeah, it's tricky because if he doesn't, I mean, the whole mechanism being the X marks the spot thing of like the 4 road poneglyphs will, you make an X out of them, and the intersection is where, I mean, those are messages that are etched in stone. So unless they're like riddles somehow, I find it difficult to imagine that referring to some place that is moving, right? That is like always going to be going around somewhere. Like I feel like that suggests that it should be somewhere that is static. You just can't get to it somehow.
It's the island on Lost. It's not the island on Lost. It's not the island. It's not the... Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, what is it? Is it? You could go really like hyper realistic on this. Like, does he have to go to a depth in the ocean that is so deep that he gets what was it, like shingles, or he gets like
like the decompression disease when he comes back up or something.
Yes. Yeah, something like that. That's if you want to go the super science route. But other than that, I don't know.
All right, Oda. Well, you got a few years for people to forget, so you can do your deep sea submarine arc, and it won't be too soon anymore. Oh man, I mean, that would be cool. I think. I don't know if that runs a little too similar to the experience of Fishman Island, of going down under the water to get to a remote place, but
yeah, I would feel that it's, I mean, that's not necessarily what I subscribe to.
Yeah,
but to me it would be complicated. Like he has to go down and then boom, he gets shot up, like somewhere. Because we have, as far as I know, aside from maybe the egg thing, we have zero idea of what he had to do to get there, because all we see is like before he's going, and then he's there where we have no hints about what there is, and then he's back. So anything could have transpired in between those periods. I mean, how it's framed right now is that it seems like he just went somewhere. He just got on a ship and went somewhere, but it may not be that simple at all.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. It's interesting because I really never had considered like the disease being a plot, like a, something that was not just a natural thing, that Roger just, that was his time and he made the most of his last bit of time. I'd never thought about that being tied in, I guess.
Yeah,
I mean, sure. I guess, well, no, I'm like, am I forgetting something? Wasn't it
Whitebeard as well?
Was it the impetus for Roger to do it, right? With that he found out about the disease and then he wanted to go back around to Laughtail, or am I making that up? It's been
it's
been a little while since this was in the manga, so my grasp of the details is a little fuzzy.
I think it was because it was not. Yes. Because it wasn't long after he discovered it that he was captured,
the crew
right?
and stuff. Yeah. Yes, that was very quick. I remember that the interval between Laugh Tale and getting captured.
And that's why they brought Crocus around, is because on the second route they knew that he was already sick. So okay. It doesn't necessarily need to have anything to do with Laugh Tale because on the first run, whatever it was that got him sick.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and on the second time around, they were like, "Hey, please come with us,
right,
Crocus, because we need you to take care of him." Yes. Okay, that's it.
We got it. We figured it out. we straightened up our own confusion. Yeah, interesting. I do not think Usopp's "I can't go on that island" disease is real. It's just a figment of his imagination. The power was inside him all along. Let's see. Two more I see here, unless there's some other hiding. Michael Cunningham at Michael X Edge. What are your thoughts on the threat of Kizaru with his light speed ability comparing what we know about Future Sight? Do you find him to be stripped of some of the threat, or do you think his character has more in store for us for a big fight?
Man, Future Sight is such a hard thing to put in your story.
Yeah.
It's how far it's literally at this point. It's literally how far ahead can you see, right?
Yeah, that's basically the question.
Yeah. And light is extremely fast, so I still believe that Kizaru is certainly a threat.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing is, even if you know what's going to happen, can you see it? Can you find it? I mean, if it's light, you would basically only know that something hit you. You wouldn't know where it was coming from.
Yes, if he wants to be literal about the speed of light, yeah.
Yeah, Kizaru's still a threat, but I mean, he's not a Yonko.
I'm like, do you think that we've kind of missed the chance for Kizaru to be a more central threat? Maybe it's just because, they were introduced so long ago and whatnot, but it does kind of feel like, if I think about Kizaru's like presence in the story, it does kind of feel like Oda has, he's invented more toys to play with that are, direct threats that are more recent, that are more shiny, to threaten the Straw Hats and the other, good guys with, in a way that I feel like, I wonder if Kizaru's kind of lost the shine a little bit, ironically.
I shared with you how I think that's going to wind up, didn't I?
Maybe you did. I don't remember.
I think they'll best him is I think Nami is gonna take this one.
Really? Ooh.
Yeah, because she had that bag of jewels that she completely inconspicuously made a. They spent like half a page on like, wow, these are jewels, and she's like, but this is so heavy. She's like, I'm just gonna leave this bag right here and be sure to come get it again.
Oh, you mean with Egghead?
Yes, Egghead, because Kizaru's heading there. Yeah, so he is there. He is there.
We'll find out.
Yeah. So my idea was, what if she just basically refracts everything that he does? Or she just has that bag of jewels, and even if what if she is able to trap him in one of them? That would be, to me, that would be interesting. But it seemed like introducing that plot point and then like half a page of Nami talking about the jewels and then boom, leaving the bag there.
Yeah. A little suspicious. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let's see. I think this is our last one from MH at Dapper Steve, who says, "Hi, when OP ends, Oda will have dedicated 30 years making it for us. Given the trend of extending popular shonen IP and One Piece's huge scale, do you envisage more stories set in this world or the desire to? Perhaps by other mangaka with Oda's blessing or collaboration such as Dragon Ball Super? What is your take on this?
You want to go with me? Okay, all right.
Yeah.
If Oda wants to be the ultimate boss of all time, he'll say, that's it. And One Piece is done. And that's your story, folks. I hope you enjoyed it. That would be the coolest thing in the world to do. I mean, that would be, that's like Clint Eastwood, like smoking the cigarette, like half hanging out his mouth, like cowboy hat. That is the ultimate way to go out. It will also never happen. You said it best earlier in the series. Is One Piece is it holds up an industry by itself almost.
Yeah.
And One Piece it's so big that One Piece is an industry itself. Not only one, but two, and maybe if things really go well, maybe three. With Netflix stuff.
Yeah.
So you have the manga, you have the anime, and maybe even this live action thing going on. But each one of those are massive productions that involve literally over, I don't want to say thousands, but maybe for the no. I'd say thousands. It literally involves thousands of individuals. Because you think about the games, you think about all each level. Both Shueisha and both Toei have games, have contracts for promotional things, and all of those have people from those companies working on them. You until you see it, until you're part of it, you can't fully fathom how large the web is of what One Piece has become. The only thing that is really comparable to it here, on the same scale, of course, is Dragon Ball. And Dragon Ball at this point, I would argue, is still much larger, because Dragon Ball is essentially it is an entity in each location of the world that is popular.
Yeah.
Whereas One Piece is largely Japan, but also I think France and Germany and South America as well. I think it is very large in terms of not popular, but how far does it extend in terms of industry, creating business, creating jobs and business. So for him to say like that's all, folks. I don't think it's even remotely realistic.
Yeah.
He has always said, be careful to say that what I am telling you is what I consider the most interesting part of Luffy's journey. Not that Luffy's journey finishes, that it will be over, but this is what he thinks the most interesting part is. And it helps that throughout the entire series, and I've said this before, is that at almost every island or every opportunity that he gets, Oda sets up children who idolize Luffy.
Right.
And there is a next generation being set up. We're watching the changing of the generation, but dude has also set up the generation that will come after Luffy's. So that is something that I don't think he'll touch in terms of artwork. But in terms of, guiding the story, kind of a guiding hand like Toriyama does with Super, yes, maybe. Yeah. Probably the Boruto.
Yeah, it is. It's hard to say, right? Because particularly with Super, just because Dragon Ball is kind of, with the way that it is constructed, you just invent new dimensions, new universes, new, super bosses. And you can keep telling that stories of that type. Whereas One Piece being such a tightly plotted story in its scope and stuff, I do feel like it makes it a little difficult. I don't think you can tell like One Piece Part 2 and like, we're going to do it again. We're going to tell a grand story of this type. It's hard to to do that when compared to the story that Oda is creating. But you know, there are lots of spin-offs right now. There are manga that are, you know, taking those characters and doing fun and silly things with them. And, you know, there's no reason why that can't continue for as long as people want them to, you know, in terms of keeping the franchise alive and keeping the memories going for, you know, the people who love the characters and so on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't see it ending. One Piece ending, yes.
Yeah.
The IP, no.
No.
We're gonna have One Piece babies.
Yeah, I don't know. I could see Oda saying like, okay, well, we're not going to create any new characters or so, you know, I'm not going to create a story Bible for what the next generation should look like or something like that. But he might, maybe, you know, I think he could still put his foot down as far as what a so-called replacement for the series would look like, or, you know, that Shueisha might be tempted to produce.
Yeah.
But I do think that, yeah, the extending the life cycle a little bit is definitely possible.
I mean, I certainly don't feel that we would follow Luffy's adventures.
No,
I mean, Luffy's adventures will finish with One Piece. And by that I mean him being featured as the main character and it being his journey. He could certainly pop up in the world, but
yeah, Ed, we're not talking about him being dead. All right.
The hero never dies.
Yeah.
But I do firmly believe that all of the children that have been introduced and kind of idolized Luffy are fair game for following a new adventure.
Sure, sure.
And what that adventure is, it might not be the same scale, certainly not.
Yeah. But. And really, aside from, I don't know, maybe like all the kids that he named from Punk Hazard, like it's not like would have really set up like a strong cast. Like, oh, there's this character and there's this character. You know, you could just, you know, like Fishman Island, you just have random kids that you could, any of them could be, you know, you invent a new character and there you go.
Yep. Indeed. I'm looking forward to when Kuma no T-Shirts no Koga. He's going to be the captain.
Yeah, from Dressrosa.
Yeah.
Yeah, the kid with the Kuma shirt, the kid with the bear shirt. Let's see. I think there's one more response. It didn't have the hashtag, but to our recent tweet here. Old 01 or old 01 says, supposedly Roger and Luffy said the same thing or have the same end of dream. Do you guys think that Roger managed to achieve his, or he actually failed, and that's why Kid Shanks cried, and later Kid Luffy reignited Shanks' drive that led to him betting his arm for Luffy? And do you think that is a rationale, or is that just Shanks is crying because, you know, it's over, right?
Shanks crying is I'm gonna put a pin in that one because I feel it's a bit complicated and it's a bit more than what we think, especially with some of his
the recent revelations,
familial revelations, coming to light, and where he supposedly, you know, came into contact with Roger,
right?
If you've seen film Red, so. Leave a pin in that one. I do think that's a little bit more complicated than achieving the dream or not, but I do not think that Roger was able to accomplish what he set out to do. Because I think if he did, we would know what the One Piece is, and the world would not be the way it is right now.
I mean, if you assume that the you know, the quest to find the One Piece is by its nature, like also the thing that will solve the problem, right? Like, well, clearly, all of this stuff about the way that the world of One Piece functions right now, the way that it's constructed is, passed on from the Void Century, from whatever happened. We're all still living through the consequences of that. So yeah, very clearly, like if that's part of what, truly finding the One Piece means, then yeah, it doesn't seem like that's what happened.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. It's a sad story, really. But I personally do not believe that he achieved his dream. But I do believe that he saw hope for the future, and he saw how it could happen.
Interesting. Well, at some point in the next couple of years, we're going to find out what that was. Can't wait.
Let's see, it's almost August, right? So what is it? When did he say that? 2019? 1920? 21, 22. So yeah, it's almost what do we have? 1 or 2 years left of 2 years left of One Piece, right? Just got to wrap it up.
Yeah. Sorry guys, ran out of time, ran out the clock. Yeah.
Speaking of clocks running out.
Yeah, I think that's a good place to end it here. So why don't we? Thank you thank you all for your questions. Really fun to ponder them and to talk about our thoughts and our past experiences and stuff like that. That's why we wanted to do this little show. So we both I know appreciate it quite a lot.
Very much.
And so yeah, let's pause for some commercial messages, and we'll be right back to round it off. This has been the One Piece Podcast, SGS version, episode 776 for the week of Monday, July 3rd, 2023.
Almost got the 777.
Yeah, almost. No, yeah, Jay is the lucky boy next week. Yes, that will be next. Or excuse me, no, that's not right. Jay is the week after when the manga returns. So yes, next week is going to be the three calamities get the 3 sevens. Wow, lucky us. How did that work out?
That's cool.
Yeah, it should have been us though. That's what the hell. Now I'm like, no, it's all good. Yeah. So as I said, next week should be our interview time, a little round table. With the gang and the voice actors for the 3 calamities, Jack, Queen, and King. That should be a lot of fun. We've had a lot of the Wano voice actors, and they are really getting very, very close, like alarmingly close. I'm not ready to think about like a dub simulcast era. I don't even know if that's possible, but that's a scary thought of being there after 1,000 plus episodes. But they are definitely closing in. And that's, God, just thinking about the amount of work that is
logistics.
That is incredible. Yeah, but that will be all for this week. You can find me on Twitter, Steven, at Translatosaurus. I don't tweet too much. I mostly retweet promotional stuff. There is something cool coming up in the near future that has not been announced yet for me next month. So I'm looking forward to talking about that. That will be fun to talk about. How about you, Greg? Where can people find you?
You can find me getting myself into trouble at Ochimusha108 on Twitter. 2 more months.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. That's it for me.
You'll get through it. Almost there. And then we'll have we will have more live action talk. I do believe that the plan was for maybe 1 a month or so of pre-release episodes talking about the live action and going over the recent sort of publicity news and things that we've seen. So we will be
keeping an eye on all of those developments and stuff. And certainly once the Netflix series drops, we will be covering it in full. I'm looking forward to that as well. Until then, I think, let's see, you can follow the podcast. You probably know already, but, twitter.com/One Piece Podcast. Follow us on Discord, our YouTube channel, which we're trying to do more stuff. We did our little live restream a few weeks ago, which was a lot of fun.
That's cool.
Yeah,
I enjoyed that.
It was really neat to do like a little segmented thing with people coming in and out, and kind of changing the focus every hour or so. That was a lot of fun. So I think we're looking at ways to do stuff like that in the future as well. So keep an eye out for announcements of future live streams and things of that nature. But yeah, you can find us on YouTube at One Piece Podcast. Follow join our Discord, I should say. Follow us on patreon.com/One Piece Podcast. Emails onepiecepodcast@gmail.com. And there's a phone number too, but nobody